Welcome to phase 2 of Icons of the Dragon Ball community as we celebrate 30 years of the Dragon Ball anime being on television, which has long since exploded into a cultural worldwide phenomenon. Dragon Ball began February 26, 1986. 30 years. And joining me on phase 2 of Icons of the Dragon Ball community, a man known worldwide, well, mostly in this country, but I'm sure he's probably known worldwide. One of the larger, biggest Dragon Ball fan websites out there, and he's been in the community for many years. Please welcome the creator, content manager, I don't know about webmaster, he has many hats. He wears many hats. Please welcome DragonBallInsider.com's Anthony Putignano. Did I say your name right that time?
Yeah, close enough.
Where did I screw up?
It's the Putignano. It's like
Oh, I did the Putignano.
There you go.
See, we rehearsed it before I went on the air.
Hey, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Oh, I screwed up.
Sounds good to me. What's going on, everyone?
Anthony Putignano. There we go.
There you go.
All right. So what's up? How are you?
Good, man. Just chilling out. Just sitting in my car outside my house because I feel that's like how you get the best sound. Really, it's right in my car, right in front of my house, chilling out, drinking some water.
Wait a minute. You record your podcast in your car? Okay, right now we've already got a revelation.
See? Not normally. Only when I'm alone. So if I'm doing it with like a big group, I'll go into my buddy Uchi's house. But in my car, in front of my house, I get the best sound. Then I got a 3-year-old daughter, so I don't want to wake her up. But that's partly the reason why I'm out here.
That's crazy, man. I've just what if it gets too well? You're in Jersey, so it's probably not going to be hot. But I assume in the summertime it can get toasty in there.
Yeah, well, it's like 40 degrees out right now. If it was last night, I wouldn't be in my car. I'd be in my house. It was like -3 here. But yeah, it's not a normal occurrence. I'm only out here because of my daughter. She's asleep, so I don't want to wake her up.
Totally understandable. That's just crazy that you said you record in your car. All right,
do what I got to do.
So 30 years of Dragon Ball.
Yes, sir.
When I say Dragon Ball has been on television for 30 years, obviously most of the English-speaking audience didn't really experience it until 98. Some of us in 95, which is only 20 years, but overall 30 years. Like, what do you think about that? Like 30 years. Like it's such a I don't even know. Like, and it's still going. It's back now, and I don't know about stronger than ever, but I'm pretty sure that with everything that's happened, it has the potential to be stronger than ever.
Well, the thing I think of is that we're talking about it, which is one of the crazier things that you could possibly imagine. So when you refer to it as 30 years of Dragon Ball, at a lot of the franchises that exist, you wouldn't even be talking about an anniversary like that because it would have been long since done or long since over. So just the fact that you could have it and talk about it in a conversation, it's amazing. And it's still going strong today, like you said. It may not be as strong as it's ever been, but the past few years really have been the revival of Dragon Ball, and it's pretty amazing to see that it's still going on and still going strong. So it's definitely a crazy thing to fathom, especially since it is such an old franchise and we could still talk about it today like it's brand new.
Let's talk about like the early days of your fandom. So,
sure.
Based upon our conversation a few days ago and what it says in your bio, you were a jock back in the day, and then you discovered Dragon Ball Z. What is your earliest memory of discovering Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z, or the whole franchise overall?
Okay, so when here's another interesting. I'm going to tell you something interesting and then explain. So when I was really young, I had to have been 7 or 8 years old. I used to hang out with my buddy. He's Vietnamese, and he lived behind me. And he was always into the whole Japanese animation, and I never really understood it. And we were on the same basketball team. So when I was around, I think it was 11 or 12 years old, we were hanging out in his house, and he was watching the show. And at that point in time, I had no idea what Dragon Ball was. And he would always be making these figures out of it was like a cardboard / paper type material. It was very weird material. He would be making these figures that would replicate the characters of this TV show. So I'm like, you know what? Let me give it a shot. So the first time I was ever exposed to it was when I was around 11 or 12 years old. And at that point in time, like I said, he was always into the show or the animation industry and not me. I was like, this is just cool. There's a bunch of fighting and I could dig it. So the first episode actually that I ever saw was Goku turning Super Saiyan 3. And at from that point on, I was like, what, this show's amazing. And
That's kind of late in the series too. That's crazy.
it is. I got a late start, and I think that has a lot to do with a lot to do with the fact that I was never into any sort of animation cartoons at all at the time. So my first exposure to it was at my buddy's house, who lived behind me, was a Vietnamese kid, and it was just literally watching him watch the show, and then I ended up bringing it into my own and getting the tapes and watching it on my own.
It's funny that you started in that part of the series because, for a lot of us who had started just maybe a year before, maybe just a few months before, the Buu Saga was this like, and I talked about this with Donovan and with Mike Labrie and a lot of you guys.
Right.
The Buu Saga was this like mythical, mysterious like saga because we all kind of had exposure to like the Frieza saga and the Vegeta saga and a little bit of the Android Cell saga or artificial human arc, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
And but the Buu saga, like there's fusions and Majin, Vegeta's bad again, and all these
Right.
things.
Right.
And we're like, oh, you're it's crazy. And then you actually started there. So you started with the Funimation dub. But I noticed that you said the word Saiyan, which is the correct pronunciation of Saiyan. So that
Right.
means that at some point you flipped over.
That's correct.
What
Now,
happened?
it was interesting because this is actually a lot later. So this is like when I was in high school because I went through phases. I was always into sports and I was never the type of person who would stay home and watch television. So I got into high school and I was a baseball player. And on my team there was this one dude, he would always come wearing a Goku shirt. And I'm like, I watched the show when I was a kid, I should pick it up again. And at the time, there was really nowhere, I had no way to access the television show. So I went to my buddy who lived behind me, and he had all of the DVDs in Japanese. So, with that said, I ended up just watching it in Japanese until I eventually got the money to buy the tapes on my own, and I started in English. So,
So he had the Funimation DVDs with the English voice language, or did he have the actual Dragon boxes? Because if he had the original Dragon boxes, those things I'm talking about the Japanese Dragon boxes with
right.
no
Yeah.
subs, those things are a gold mine.
Honestly, I couldn't tell you. I don't really remember, but I do know it was Japanese, and I watched it with him, and it was a revelation. It really was because like I said, I was never into the whole anime thing. So watching that alone was just you get a whole new respect for the television show, and the franchise itself just by watching. But I'm not sure if they were the Dragon boxes. I'm
They
sure I'm sure they were not.
Well, they may have been like either one of the Hong Kong bootlegs, which I owned. I actually still
Yeah.
have them somewhere in a box. The blue. Anybody who's around back then remembers the. You bought them online on some website that doesn't exist anymore. There are these
Yeah. Yeah.
blue Dragon Box rips that had really bad subs, and then there's
Okay.
also the Funimation bilingual releases. So what basically the story you're telling is that you were kind of a casual fan, and then you kind of lost interest, but then you came back in.
Right. Exactly.
So when did you decide or when did you, I guess, come to terms with I don't know if it's an obsession or when did you officially kind of realize that this was like more than just a TV show, that it was like a high quality. I mean, is it your favorite show?
Is it my favorite anime or show in general?
I'm assuming it is your favorite anime, or maybe it's not.
It,
You're not a big anime guy.
right. It's hard to say because you learn to I'm trying to think of the word. I guess find a new respect for different television shows and animes by watching different ones. So I think being that Dragon Ball was my first, it'll always have a special place in my heart. But as far as favorites go, it's hard to say yes and it's hard to say no, but it's definitely the one that's never going to leave and I have the most passion about. So I guess with that said, it probably is my favorite.
Yeah.
But when what was I going to say?
So what are some of your other favorites, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh yeah, sure. Well, I started to watch Attack on Titan, which was good. I finished Full Metal Alchemist, Brotherhood, which was great.
A lot of
Uh,
people love that one.
yeah, so I guess the more mainstream ones, the ones that you hear about, because some of them, I know a lot of people who watch anime that I've never heard of, and I probably wouldn't even think to watch or even read the manga for that matter. But those are the two big ones. I finished Death Note not too long ago, and I watched Naruto, but to me it was it's different, especially coming from Dragon Ball, which is to me extremely cut and dry, straightforward. All the depth in all these other animes that I've watched is a little bit, yeah, just different. But those three, Attack on Titan, Full Metal, and Death Note, are probably the more favorites of the ones I've actually watched. Dragon Ball is definitely up there though.
Well, it's funny because Full Metal Alchemist and Death Note always get put on. Now, Attack on Titan's kind of too new for this, but I
Right.
feel like those two always get put on like the top 5, top 10 anime of all time. They always get put on those lists. So you got a good, crop there. So,
Yeah, which is why I actually watched those because I heard they were good and I wanted to have something that was good to base what I watch other things off of. So
right. Now, did you watch the series in order when you got it from your friend on DVD? Because a lot of people back then, before everything was out, we couldn't watch the series in order. We had to jump around, skip this, skip that, and then go back and fill in the gaps later. Were you one of the few lucky ones that got to see the whole thing in order?
I did get to see it all in order.
Lucky.
Yep, I did, and it's because I started late. I was in high school at the time, so I think it was a sophomore. So I started a little bit later when I actually got the full exposure, and at that point, it was a little bit more easier to access. So
So I want to talk about nostalgia because you brought
sure,
up an interesting point. Do you feel that, first of all, I think nostalgia is very powerful,
it is.
very powerful. Do you feel that because you had a late start, do you think that that might have contributed to the fact that you personally are not overly nostalgic about the original Funimation dub, like a lot of people are? Like, because I've noticed with certain people in the community, like Gabby, for example, Mozilla Volpix, who I do videos with, she
Right.
started about a year ago, and she's ridiculously knowledgeable. But the thing about her, and she just dove in, it's kind of like you did, but just a little bit later. She dove into the series, loved the series, read about the series, read the series in manga format, watched it in Japanese and English, watched Kai, watched Abridged, all this stuff. And but the thing is that a lot of people who started back in like the 90s, they have this attachment to the Funimation dub. And if you like the Funimation dub, this is not anything negative towards that. You're free to watch Dragon Ball whichever way you want to watch it, and that's fine. But I've noticed that people who start after don't have that same attachment. So do you feel that the nostalgia is the reason? Because it just seems time and time again, I'm noticing that pattern.
It's you know what? It's hard to say, only because I did start late, but the nostalgia factor is there. It's the way, see, the word nostalgia implies an emotional connection to something. So, being that I started late, there's a different, I guess you could say a different level of nostalgia that I have, but I went into the series completely open-minded because I had no idea what to expect. I was never into anime, and it was the first thing I ever watched. So, only being exposed initially to the Buu arc and then watching it, I don't even remember where I watched it through. I might have watched it through to the end, but once I went back to it when I was in high school and watched it in Japanese, the whole Funimation dub with the score, it wasn't exactly memorable to me only because I watched it at such a young age. So when I watched it with the Kikuchi score, I'm like, this is interesting. So later on in life, when I revisited the Funimation dub, to me, listening to the score with Bruce Falconer, it was almost,
Uh-oh.
it was awkward to me
It's
because I
very
was exposed.
polarizing, right?
It is. And it was awkward because of I guess the order in which I watched the series in. So that's why I feel like I'm more connected to the dub with the Kikuchi score, which you can listen to if you have the bricks and whatever other sets Funimation puts out. So, and that's my preference. But it's not that the Falconer score is unbearable to me. It's just awkward because of I think the order in which I saw it. So the nostalgia I have, I think, could be considered a little bit different than someone else who is exposed to the series with the dub, with the Falconer score, than someone like me who was exposed to it at a young age, revisited it in Japanese with the Kikuchi score, and then again later in life listening to the dub on Toonami with
The
the
Kai
Falconer
dub?
score.
Oh,
So
the Falconer score.
yeah, but the
So,
Kai dub is a different story.
yeah, let's talk about the Kai dub because
Sure.
we were talking about a little bit before we went on the air. and about the Kai dub specifically. The Kai dub was kind of like them sort of, fixing their mistakes. I'm talking about, when I say them, I mean Funimation's voice cast. At this point, Chris Saba had become in charge. He was the ADR director. The
Right.
previous producer, Barry Watson, was no longer with the company. Things were different. And also, the thing also was that at that time, Funimation was significantly more successful and much more known for anime, because by then, when they did Dragon Ball Z, they had like no anime under their they didn't do any anime like
Exactly.
prior. Yeah, exactly. But by the time they got Dragon Ball Z, I'm sorry, Dragon Ball Kai, excuse me, they had done tons and tons of anime, entire series for years and years and years. So, what are your thoughts on the Kai dub and the Kai Japanese version? Do you think that Kai is a necessary view for fans of the Japanese version, and do you think that Kai is essential viewing for fans of the original Z dub? In
Okay,
your
so
opinion.
the way I see it is that I think the English dub of Kai was 100% necessary for English speaking fans or anyone who wants to watch Dragon Ball in its essentially pure form.
It's more for like anime fans, right? Like the
It
the, the
is.
purists. Yeah.
Exactly. Now, as far as it goes for the Japanese viewers and people of Japan, I don't think it was necessarily necessary because they were already exposed to it. So that series to them was basically just Dragon Ball without the filler. So I don't think it was necessary, but definitely necessary for Funimation's dub and people to be exposed to that, in that things happened the way they did for a reason. And when Dragon Ball Z was initially dubbed, it wasn't dubbed, in my opinion. Actually, it's more so a fact, the way it should have been dubbed. A lot of changes were made to the dialogue. That the musical scores changed, which to me was an insult to the franchise and the series itself. But the we needed Kai here in the States. That's the way I feel.
Yeah, I agree with you. And they went back and they did it, and they knocked it out of the park, in
They
my
did.
opinion.
Not only that, the voice talent was it was drastically improved. Back when Z started, as you know, a lot of those guys, that was their first gig. So they were inexperienced voice actors. So listening to Kai, you could really hear the development in each of the voice actors' voices, and their performances are just way better.
I agree. Yeah, I agree with you. And the script is better too, without question.
Absolutely.
Now, let's talk about Dragon Ball Insider a little bit, like the
Sure.
website. So for a long time, go way back to like the late '90s, there were tons of Dragon Ball fan sites, because this was like this underground, like kind of cultivation movement kind of thing. When anime was first blowing up in the 90s, when it was called Japanimation, and there was all
Right,
these
right.
big Dragon Ball sites. Then they all started to kind of fall off. Just guys were growing up, they were getting married, they stopped caring about Dragon Ball. Funimation was putting out bilingual DVDs, so we didn't have to fight the good fight to get the Japanese version out.
Right.
And then of course by the time Kai came around, there was really nothing left, because we got a good dub finally. But right around 2012, I mean, I found you guys 2013.
Right.
That's when I found you. I think it was 2013. I think it was. Might have been 2014, but 2013. Couple of years you guys have blown up. So before we get to that, I want to ask you, what inspired you, or what are the origins of DragonBallInsider.com?
Okay, so it actually started on Instagram. And basically, this is how it went down. Me and the co-founder of Dragon Ball Insider, and his name is Uchi. He's an awesome dude. He's always very busy, and he couldn't join us today. But we worked together at Radio Shack, and he was always a big anime fan. And at that point in time, it was late 2012, early 2013, where he came to me and he was like, "Yo, dude, you watch Naruto?" Because he was always a big Naruto guy. I'm like, I'm not really into it, but I'm a big fan of Dragon Ball Z. I watch it every day when I get home from school, and just when I'm bored, if I'm studying, I'll put it on because I find it interesting. He's like, "Oh, no way." And so from that point on, we would always just talk about the franchise, talk about the manga, and at that point, I think Instagram, there was this one page on Instagram that I followed. It was called I think it was like Dragon Ball Daily or official Dragon Ball. Someone trying to just always talk about Dragon Ball and try to prove their knowledge to people. And I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm going to follow it for the pictures. So what happened was they ended up putting out this contest they were doing. Excuse me. And it was basically like, answer this question and you get points. It was something silly, but I'm like, you know what? I know enough about the series to join. And they were just doing some really easy questions that their answers were extremely inaccurate. So I'm like,
Oh boy, like give me an example if you don't mind. I
sure, like,
promise I won't get mad.
oh, no problem.
I have a
So,
short fuse when it comes to this kind of stuff, man.
well, this one I'm sure you can relate to.
I'm
Like,
sure.
it was just like true or false. Or I'm just going to be extremely generic here. Akira Toriyama's original intention to end the series was just after the Frieza arc. True or false? And it's just like, if you're a true Dragon Ball fan and you've studied the series, you know that there have been many times Toriyama has wanted to either halt or stop the series. So you can't just pinpoint one time and give it a true or false answer because you're never going to have the right answer. So I tried explaining that. And it was just like, oh, you're wrong. And I'm like, what do you mean I'm wrong? Like, I think I know enough about this to know what the truth and what the false is. So at that point, I'm like, you know what? This is ridiculous. I'm going to make an Instagram and start doing what this kid's doing just to, frankly, I want to embarrass the kid, which sounds mean, but it was something I
Oh,
did.
that's okay. I've been down that road before, man. That's the
So,
thing is you're Italian, bro. Italian people, Italians are like Latinos, which Uchi is Latino. We're very
yeah,
passionate people. I hate to say it like that, but it is passion. But no, continue.
it is. So I made the page, and for whatever reason, like I went on there and I just started. I was basically trolling the kid, and at that point in time, I'm like, this is just a joke to me. And then I just continued keeping up with it, and I met this kid Dave, and he's I don't even know how to pronounce his Twitter handle, but
Something
his name
very
is,
Japanese.
yeah, something very Japanese. But I started to post more pictures, and I started to post facts. And then that one page that was initially trolling hit me up. He's like, "Hey, dude, I'm working on a project. Would you like to join me?" And I'm like, "Nah, it's all right. I'm gonna do my own thing." So randomly, the Instagram I made just got huge, and
You
huge
just
by
hit 100,000 followers, by the way, bro.
yeah, we just hit 100,000 followers today. Now,
As of this taping,
then,
by the way, just
yes,
so everybody
exactly.
knows. You might be at 200,000 by the time this goes up.
Yeah, who knows?
Who
Seriously.
knows? But continue.
But where was I? Oh yeah, so but huge by my standards at that point was like, oh shoot, I have like 1,000 followers. So I'm like, you know what? I might as well make a website. But that wasn't my idea. It was actually Uchi's. He's like, dude, you know a lot about the series. You've read the manga. We should like start something. So I'm like, sure, I'll do it. And then I made the website. The Instagram started growing. We made a Facebook, obviously, a Twitter. And then out of nowhere, are the views and visitors to our websites just it I couldn't believe the amount of growth it got. And then at that point then there was history. It was just like you literally start from wanting to do something just because you were bored to going and doing something, and it's just like, this could actually potentially be something big, and we stuck with it, and to this day we're still growing, and that's basically it. It's just the passion of Dragon Ball Insider that I have for it. It started as a gag, and it turned into something that a lot of people take serious and go to every day, and now it's something that I'm extremely passionate about, and I don't want to say it's like a second job, but it's an obligation I feel like I have to maintain and continue to grow this website just out of respect for the series and the purpose of giving true and accurate information, whereas a lot of these fan sites you see out there don't exactly do that. I mean, you have your big ones like KANZENSHUU, who will always be the king of the Dragon Ball fan site industry, I guess you could say. But I like to think of Dragon Ball Insider as something that you can go to if you don't know about KANZENSHUU. So, or if you don't know about other websites that may exist that have extremely accurate information with people that you can trust. So, but
Well,
that's
plus you,
basically the
you
story.
also have different content because you have your
We do.
podcast as well.
Exactly. And I think it's always good to have different content, especially since it's the series. You could talk about it in so many different ways, and it's just having such a huge audience, not only for my website as a whole, but the series, the fans. It's just everything about Dragon Ball is diverse. I mean, you have a completely different type of fan base with Dragon Ball, I feel, than any other animated franchise. So It's really easy to take advantage of that when you have so many different types of people that are interested in the series.
Yeah, and Dragon Ball's fan base is so, I was talking to you about it the other night too, about how there's a division line in the fan base, but I almost feel like there's also multiple smaller division lines, but there is like a major division line in the people who kind of just because, and then there's no wrong way to be a fan if you ask me.
Right.
Like if you're a casual fan okay, I'll give you an example with Star Wars. Like I consider myself a huge Star Wars fan, but my fandom only follows through with the 6 films and the television shows and the new Disney canon.
Right.
However, there are fans out there who have read all of the old canon books, the expanded universe books. I had never got a chance to read them all. So they could look at me and they could say, "Well, you're not a hardcore fan because if you were hardcore, you would have read all this." And for me, I'm like, "Well, I am a hardcore fan. I love Star Wars a lot. I saw the new movie 5 times. I love the original movie, seen them 100 times each. So I'm still a hardcore fan, but maybe I'm not just a hardcore, like, expanded universe fan." And I've
Right.
noticed that, like, I'm not going to lie to you. I've made this mistake before. I really have. How in the past when I was an angry young man, how right where people would kind of just watch the dub and they would never, and it has nothing to do with the dub's quality. It's more so they would just watch it on Cartoon Network, never explore not just other dubs but also the video game universe, because the video games have like their own canon with like Mira,
Right.
Toa. Now they do. Back then not so much. They never really explored the manga. So I would kind of be this somewhat of an elitist when I was younger, of course. Now I've kind of understood that you can be a hardcore fan of like Family Guy and watch every episode, but that doesn't mean that you have to like dig into like the production, Seth
Right.
MacFarlane's underwear. Um, but that's what I do with Dragon Ball, and you kind of do it too. But not everybody has to be like that. I do feel like your website is a little bit friendlier than a lot of other websites when it comes to the casual audience. I think your website's good for drawing in the casuals as well as the
Right.
hardcores.
Well, let me tell you about the time I first realized how Dragon Ball had such a huge audience outside of just your anime fan. So, the first time I was in California was when I went out to the LA premiere of Resurrection F. So, I flew out there, and the first thing I noticed when I got to the Egyptian theater was the type of people that were there, because there were hundreds of people, and it was just like the first person I saw was this huge jacked guy. He was enormous, wearing like the wife beater. He was like all yoked up, looked like he was on juice. He was steroids or whatever it
Was it
was.
Ichigo?
No, it wasn't him. It wasn't him.
I was just saying.
No, 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 no. No, I actually did meet him there though. But then you had like your cosplay types, and then you had like it's like the different types of cultures, and I feel like you could put people into different types of like cultures in terms of where they stand in the fandom. So like you have your geek culture, you have your jock culture, you have your it's like it's a never ending. You have guys, you have girls, you have older people, you have younger people, and I'm sure you have that with other franchises as well. But going to that premiere, I learned to understand that Dragon Ball Z if is one of, if not the only anime that's widely accepted by every type of person. Because not all Dragon Ball fans watch animes like, I don't know, Death Note or just what is it, like Attack on Titan, like I watch.
It,
But
it goes beyond it being just an anime, is what you're
it
telling me.
does. It really does. Because when I first watched Dragon Ball, I knew it was the TV show I watched, but I never considered it the anime because it was just something I watched.
It was like a cartoon, essentially, right?
It was the
Yeah.
cartoon to me. So just calling it an anime, it almost doesn't feel right to me, or it didn't feel right to me, only because my whole interpretation of anime was like only Japanese, weird flat drawings, weird animation. It's just Dragon Ball as a whole, I think was done completely different than any of the other animes out there. And I really learned that it was so widely accepted when I went to this premiere, because it was literally it was it's unexplicable. It was unreal just seeing the types of people that were into this. And it's just like, not for anything, whoever Toriyama did something right. He really did. His target audience, what it's basically everyone. There really is no other way to explain it because you talk to anyone, it's just like, oh yeah, when I was a kid, I used to watch DBZ. Oh yeah, when I used to come home from school, I watched it on Toonami. It's just like, oh, I would have never expected you to watch an anime. And then you have the people who are like, what do you mean anime? It's the cartoon I watched when I was a kid. So it's just like people have that ignorance, not saying that in a bad way, but they just don't know of what Dragon Ball actually is, but it doesn't phase them because
Yeah.
it's Dragon Ball.
It's crazy because I'm working on a video currently as we speak called "Why is Dragon Ball So Popular" for the 30th anniversary, and that's one of the things that I'm definitely going to point out too. That you may have brought a great point is that Dragon Ball doesn't really it's kind of it sounds really weird to say this because this might come off a little disrespectful, but I hope it doesn't. If you understand what I'm trying to say, Dragon Ball does not feel Eastern. It doesn't feel
It doesn't.
Japanese. Yeah, it
It doesn't at
feels
all.
exactly. It feels like anybody can relate to it. It's not really an anime. I mean, it is an anime, but it's
It
really
is an anime, but it's not. It doesn't feel like your typical anime.
yeah. I almost feel like if Toonami had aired, let's say what's a much more Love Hina. There we go. If they aired Love Hina before Dragon Ball, I don't think it
Yeah.
would have exploded anywhere close to it being like Dragon Ball. Then of course you had Sailor Moon, which the thing about Sailor Moon is that Sailor Moon's superheroine archetype had already been seen in this country with Power Rangers, which is also Japanese.
Exactly.
You know,
Which not once again, not a lot of people knew that.
it's funny because when you look at the history of Haim Saban and Saban Entertainment, which was involved in Dragon Ball back then,
Yep.
Saban literally made himself a millionaire by taking a Japanese phenomenon and Americanizing it. He made a
Yeah,
career on it.
it's true.
I wish I
Definitely it's
thought of
true.
it.
Yeah, seriously, we'd all be rich.
Right? Like him. Now, so we had the anime or the Dragon Ball fan sites back then. Then we had like a big slump where they all fell apart. Then it
Yep.
was just Kanzenshu and or, I'm sorry, no, Daizenshu EX and Kanzentai. They merged. Now Dragon Ball Insider's here, so now it's Dragon Ball Insider and Kanzenshu. So I was just gonna ask you, what it's been 2 years. You started to make a lot of connections like in the industry. How did you actually get if you're allowed to tell the story, how
Sure.
were you able to fly out there? Like, 'cause I know you know a lot of people now. So did people contact you or did you contact them? Like, how did you start to really network to grow the website? If you're willing to give that out, because like I said, it
Sure.
might be personal stuff.
No, no problem. Well, I was actually contacted by one of the public relations managers for Funimation. He's head of PR. And basically, I flew out to LA on my own expense, but I was invited to go out to the premiere. So there's that. It was awesome, first of all. So I went out there. I met the his name is Scott, actually, Scott Barretto, real nice guy. He contacted me, and it kind of threw me off a little bit because, like I said, I started Dragon Ball Insider as a gag, and then it turned into something big that I ended up becoming very passionate about. So when he contacted me, I'm like, this is kind of cool. But before I actually flew out there, he gave me the opportunity to interview with Shemmel, Sabat, and Justin Cook, which at first I was like, is this a joke? Like, why is this guy contacting me? I don't know who this person is. Is he trying to screw with me? So then when it actually happened, I'm like, all right, so this is the real deal. So it was all thanks to this guy, Scott Barretto, real nice guy. Um, Flew out to LA, met him, and from that point on, we've always been in contact. So, like for example, when we actually had a ticket giveaway with Funimation where we were provided with tickets by Funimation to give them out as a giveaway for the red carpet premiere of Resurrection F in New York City. And we were provided with like 60 tickets, and the theater wasn't that big, so I almost felt like we filled the theater itself. So it was really cool just making those connections with Scott, getting the opportunity to interview Shemmel, Sabat, Justin Cook. I'm really grateful for it. It's something that I really didn't expect, and when something like that happens, you really start to feel the whole fanboy in you. You go from being a professional working on a website trying to keep your composure to secretly having that, oh my God, I'm going to be listening to people I listened to when I was a kid go on in your head. You know what I mean?
It's yeah, you become a fanboy, but you also have to keep it together, right?
You
Like,
do, which it was, I don't want to say it was a lot easier than I anticipated, but it was like the whole shock of doing it made you stay on your toes. Like, I'm ready for this. But yeah, the connections I've made, I'm extremely grateful for, and I'm always in touch with them. And it's websites like mine and Kanzenshu and And any other Dragon Ball websites. It's websites like ours that I really believe that Funimation and anyone involved with the series, they're grateful for because we're advertising for them for free, making their franchise just grow and continue to be as successful and popular as it is today.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing that's difference the difference between Funimation and Toei, and I'm not gonna insult Toei, but I feel like
They're
Toei,
very strict. They don't
yeah,
let you do anything.
exactly. They are control freaks. I'm not gonna get into the details. I'm sure you probably know the story about their ordeal with Team Four Star.
Oh yeah, I do. I do.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if we're allowed to talk about it, but
I don't think so.
they don't like Team Four Star. Okay, and they what they don't understand is that Team Four Star's a bridge series, and number one, it's made with a lot of love. Because every one of those guys, especially Kaiser Neko, whom I remember being in the fandom for 20 years. I mean, this guy was
Before
emailing
Team Form Star.
way before, dude.
Yeah,
This guy Kaiser Neko was like emailing Kanzenshu and being on their or it was Daizenshu back then and their
right.
podcast and just being on the boards and everything and being active in the community way before a bridge ever happened. And he loves the series and like it's funny to me because and that's number one. Number two, a bridge is a parody, but it's not making fun of the Japanese culture or making fun of anything but just having little jokes in Dragon Ball, but it's made with so much love. And number
Yeah.
three, and this is the big one, I know for a fact that Abridged has actually brought fans back into the love of Dragon Ball from when they were younger, and it's created new fans.
Of
Abridged
course.
has actually made new fans. People have watched, this blows my mind. People have watched Abridged before seeing Dragon Ball, which I thought was crazy until I found
Yeah.
out that some people have seen Spaceballs before seeing Star Wars.
Yeah, that's crazy. What where I actually found that out because I conducted a poll a while back, and it was just like, which dub are you a fan of? Like I put down the English dub, the Funimation in-house cast, Japanese. I think I put the Malaysian down there, and then
That's my favorite.
yeah, yeah, good luck with that. But I put other, and I can't even begin to tell you how many people put down their other favorite dub was the Team Four Star dub, the abridged.
It's just, but in many ways, I mean, those guys did a great. It's a fan project, but
They
they
do a great
deserve.
job. They do a great job. They're fans of the series. And I give them a lot of credit. There are people out there that aren't fans, and it's I guess I understand why, but at the same time, it's just like keep an open mind. I listen to them because I find it hilarious. I mean, not for anything. If I can get a laugh, I'm going to listen to it. And especially if it's about something that I like, it's not insulting. I mean, some people think it's insulting to the series, but
I don't
I
see
truly
how.
don't believe it is. I don't believe it is at all. But then again, you have your purists who don't want to see any slight delineation from what it's supposed to be.
I mean, dude, I put out a. I don't even know if Funimation's even aware of this. I put out a Geekdom holiday shopping guide where I
Yeah,
pretty much told the fans, okay, this is if you want to watch Dragon Ball, these are your options. And if you want to read Dragon Ball, I don't even know if they're even aware of it. But the bottom line is that all of us, we love the series, but we are helping Toei and helping Funimation. And it is funny to me that you're right that Toei sees it one way. No, don't get involved. We want to control everything. Funimation is like, yeah, promote us. That's fine. As long as you don't
exactly.
bootleg us, we're good to go.
Right. Well, and there always is two sides to this. So if you think about it real hard, which you don't really have to think about it real hard, you could kind of understand where Toei is getting at, only because, it's their property and it's theirs. And if you ask me, they're extremely selfish because not for anything, there could be a lot more content here and in English than there is right now. So I think it's safe to say that, I don't know, Toei needs to step back a little bit.
I agree, but Toei seems to be a little bit behind the times. I mean, there's no simulcast. They want to get a TV deal. All this stuff
Well,
seems
that's the
like
thing,
90,
especially with Super.
with Super, yeah.
I'm a firm believer in that. Unless there's a TV spot, we're not going to hear about any licensing and until something like that happens.
Yeah, but if you do your homework on television's actually been on the decline for the past 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah,
Now, what's been getting big is a la carte programming.
yeah,
Netflix, HBO Go, Hulu, UFC Fight Pass. All these things are, that's the big thing now. So
yeah.
you would think that Toei would either piggyback off of Funimation.com's little, because they have, I don't know if they have an app yet, but they have like the website
Right.
subscription package, or create their own with the subbed version. But they're just, I feel like they're so
Yeah.
behind the times, man. Other anime
That
get simulcast and Dragon Ball Super can't.
Yeah, exactly. And not only that, Netflix, I mean, it's on Hulu, but Netflix, I mean, apart from not being written into the initial contract, I mean, if it was on Netflix, why not? But that's all Toei. It really
Yeah,
is.
it is. It is. Let's talk about the series. I
Sure.
want to go back to Insider here in a minute. In your opinion, all right, I'll put you on the spot here. All right, if you could choose, now I'm not saying that one sucks or ain't. No, if
Right.
you could choose Sumitomo, Kikuchi, Yamamoto, or Bruce Faulkner, who's your favorite?
It's
Not which
tough.
one's the best. Who's your favorite?
How about this is tough. Are we talking Kai or strictly Z?
Well, no, just overall music. Like which of the four composers do you think had the best music and the music that fit to Dragon Ball the best in your opinion? I think I know what you mean by that question, because Yamamoto does kind of fit with Kai better. I really feel that
Yeah.
way. But just which music did you enjoy the most? I'm just curious.
I'm gonna have to go with Kikuchi.
Because if you don't mind me asking, why is it because he has that kind of old school like orchestral? Because I'm a sucker for that. Remember, I
Yeah.
grew up with Dragon Ball. I'm sorry, with of course Dragon Ball, with Star Wars. So I'm a
Right.
sucker. I am a sucker for John Williams' epic orchestral drums and trumpets and horns. I just, and violins. I just love that stuff. So is that why, or is there another reason?
Well, it's honestly, I think that's where the whole nostalgia factors in with me. Because when I watched the series through the first time ever, it was with the Kikuchi score. And as you know, Dragon Ball the music is heavily influenced by music from the 50s and 60s. So
Yeah.
it just that type of music was really fitting. And not only that, it's just it's almost a romantic feel to it. It's kind of like it's it's hard to put in words because it's to me that'll always be the original, the OG. Like it's just to me it'll always hold true as the my favorite, and I think it fits the best. I mean, but I could also understand why fans of the original English dub, well, I mean, depending on what you find original,
That's true.
would
Because there's also Shuki Levy's score.
exactly
Yeah.
the Falconer score. I could see why it's more modern.
Yeah, I agree with you, and it fits better, I think, for the video games like Legacy of
Yeah,
Goku than it does for the. Yeah, the thing is that I noticed that people criticize Kikuchi because they say that Kikuchi's score sounds old, but what people don't realize, and I will get your thoughts on this too, is
sure,
that it's supposed to sound old. Like Dragon
exactly.
Ball, yeah, that's the point. I did a video about this ages ago. The people who are at Toei, not so much the manga, but the people who work at Toei, it's clear that they are huge fans of Sergio Leone and of classic Western movies, because
Yeah,
Dragon Ball, the anime, not the manga,
Godzilla,
well,
Godzilla. Yeah,
of course, but the Sergio Leone, the fistful of dollars and
yeah,
those films, because if you notice when you watch those films, they have the whole like staring for a long time, like Frieza and Goku did, or anybody in Dragon Ball, the staring and like the build up and the dun dun dun, with the
yeah,
drums, dun dun dun, and they totally, and then the fact that they zoom in on the faces, like they just totally are such fans of the Sergio Leone style of filmmaking. So when you watch Dragon Ball Z, more so in Dragon Ball, you see that, like it's there. So I feel like if people understood that and understood the source of their fandom, the guys who made
right.
Dragon Ball Z, okay, like that's what they're going for, which I love, because those Sergio Leone movies are huge American historical films, and
Right.
people who make Dragon Ball are such fans of 80s, 70s, and 60s American culture. I mean, you've got the Rocky montages in Dragon Ball, you've got
Yeah.
the blood sport montage, something with the training and the tournaments. There's so many things that they took from this country, and I think that that's another reason why it blew up so big, because it's all familiar.
Yeah, exactly. And not only that, it's hard for in terms of the music, it's really hard to find people that were exposed initially to the Japanese version of the series. So I think when people are exposed to it after never hearing it at all, I think that's where there's the disconnect because quote unquote this isn't what Dragon Ball Z is. They're used to the one thing and one thing only. So they're not going to know
Nostalgia.
what to expect. Exactly. They don't know what to expect. I can't even begin to tell you how many people don't realize and don't know that Dragon Ball was an original Japanese production. Not everyone knows that. The casual fan may not know that. It's the TV show they watched when they got home from school on Toonami that was in English. How would they know that it's was originally in Japanese? I mean, like I said before, I never considered it an anime. So if I was that type of fan, I might not have known.
I agree with you. And to me, there's nothing wrong. Like we said before, there's nothing wrong with being that kind of fan. My problem has never been if somebody prefers a certain way of watching a series. My problem has always been if somebody attacks somebody else. For example, people attacked me for saying Saiyan Saiyan, and I
Yeah.
said Saiyan for a long time. Then I said Saiyajin. Then I started saying Saiyan because it just fit the best. People would attack myself, and I don't know how much criticism you've gotten, but some of our peers have gotten just attacked. Oh, you're saying it wrong. You don't know what you're talking about, and it's like, and then of course I get defensive because we talked about
Yeah.
we're passionate people, and I say, and then my ego comes out, and
Well,
then I say, well, I actually know like 10 times more than you do because if you knew half what I did, you would know I'm saying it right. I don't want
right.
to come off like that. I hate coming off like that, but I don't know about you, but does it bother you when somebody says you're wrong when you know you're right? I know it's an ego thing, and we're men and we have egos, and I try to control it, but it bugs me because I know I'm right about this one.
It bugs me, and let me explain to you what I have done. So, Frieza, the spelling of his name, okay? I can't even begin to tell you how many times on Instagram or Twitter or wherever someone would correct my spelling. So, and it would really bother me. So, I have a list of notes on my phone of answers to the common criticisms I get for either spelling or saying something wrong. So, people would be like, "Oh, you spelled Frieza wrong. Copy and paste. This is why it's not spelled this way." It's like it bothers me. So, I have that list so I can respond to these people in a fast yet professional manner while secretly being annoyed, like, you know what, please do your research. I know it's spelled this way, and I know the merchandise you have is with the packaging is spelled with the, I don't even know. I spell the way Funimation spells it wrong all the time because I don't even really know. It's, what is it, Frie or Frei, one of those two?
Frie, but the original romanization is Furiza, Furiza. But
Right.
Bandai spells it Freeza, which I think is the right one.
I completely agree. And not only that, hence the pun, freezer. So it's just there's no IE in the word freezer. I mean, that's like to someone who doesn't understand romanization and transliteration, I feel like that's the best way to explain it to someone. But I do get annoyed. I really do. And as far as saying the term Saiyan or Saiyan or Saiyajin,
I don't care how you say it. Just don't attack me. See, what it is for me,
yeah,
bro, is it's more so the disrespect. Because, like, that's what, because it's the internet. People are assholes. And, if you ask me, okay, why do you say it like that? I'll give you an answer. But if you say, you're stupid, you've never seen the series before, motherfucker, I've seen it in 3 languages. How many
right.
times just because you freaking, I'm not gonna rant right now. I'm not gonna rant. I'm just saying, just because you came home from school and watched it on TV, I seen it in 3 languages, bro. Get on my
Right.
level. Like then that comes out of me, and then I feel like a douche afterward because I'm like, I don't want to be that guy. But don't attack me. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to ruin your childhood.
Well,
You
that's the
know?
thing. And a lot of the times, half the times, the people don't realize what they're attacking and they don't have anything to back it up with. So, like, I'll have someone question, say, hey, why are you saying Saiyan as opposed to Saiyan? And I'll be more than happy to explain. But the thing is just like when someone comes at you saying, why are you saying it this way? You're saying completely wrong. You obviously don't know what you're talking about. It's just like, do I even waste my time or do I just copy and paste what I have written down again? It's just like, but there are the people that genuinely don't know, but then there are the people who are just, they want to hear themselves talk.
And it's cool too because it's when you meet these people in person, you talk to them like a person, and they are most of the time they're cool, like because that's all internet like bravado, and when you meet somebody in person who actually very few people will yell at you in person. It's all internet cowards,
Of course.
right? I don't know. I've always been more about like I've done videos with Dino, our buddy Dino, with several different Dragon Ball tubers, and whenever somebody
Right.
says saying, I never say, "Oh, you're wrong." I never do that ever, even if they say like, General Tao or Mercenary Tao. I never ever
Right.
say that ever, or even PyCon. It's PyCon.
Yeah.
but people come at us. But let's talk about something positive because I don't want to rag on the angry people.
Sure.
What are your top 3 favorite moments of the series, the entire series?
Ooh, okay. So my number one, Ultimate Gohan, just him making his first appearance.
I'm not
Um,
gonna fight you. I'm gonna kill you. That
yeah,
one?
exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Him
That's your
coming.
number one?
Yeah, man. I'm telling you, I'm very simple kind of man. It's just that moment. It always resonates. Hence, him being my favorite character per se.
Oh, I'm sorry
Ultimate.
about that.
Yeah, right. Seriously. Yeah, it sucks, but it is what it is. But that would have to be my first. My second. Ooh, that's tough. I've never actually sat down and thought about this, so it's
Uh-oh.
you're expanding my own mind here.
Good, good. Just what moments, like, I guess, catch you, like they I don't want to say, like, what moments make you emotional? I don't mean emotional like crying. I mean like emotional, like, like they put some hair in your nuts. I hate to say that, but you know
Yeah,
what I
no,
mean.
no, I hear you. I really, let's see, I enjoyed. This is so tough. Really is. I mean, I have to go Super Saiyan 3. That's one of the more iconic ones. And I don't want to say cliche, but a lot of people do love that moment. And I'd be lying if I told you it didn't get stuck in my head when I was a kid. Like, I was screaming at the TV, like it was like, I enjoyed that. And plus, it was the first thing I ever saw. So that's got to be my second.
And the Falconer score on that I thought was very good too. Very
I
good.
do think so too. And a lot of people don't know this, but he wasn't fully responsible for that score. But
Scott
anyway,
Morgan.
yes, sir.
Yeah, that whole controversy.
Yeah, it's a big one.
I would love to interview him one day, but easier said than done. I'm talking about
Yeah,
Scott Morgan because our
yeah,
buddy Blackenfist got Bruce. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah. He's very active on Twitter. I'm sure you could probably get in touch with Falconer, but I'd have to say, probably, huh. I really liked. I mean, I don't know about you, but my favorite arc was the Buu arc, and not many people who are fans of the series would agree with me. Actually,
Very rare.
some people would, some people won't, but the Buu arc was, to me, it maybe because I was older and I watched it when I was older, I can remember it best, but I've seen it 10 times over at this point. But my third would, I'm a big fan of Vegito, man. I've always been a big fan of Vegito. So when he made his short-lived appearance, that that was awesome.
When he was just kicking his ass.
Yeah, that one. But Frieza was always a good one.
Well,
When
which Frieza? Like which moment?
uh the destruction of Namek.
Like when it actually blew up, or when he
When
shot
it
the beam down?
when he shot the beam down, that whole 46 episodes of before the planet blew up.
Well, that's not really a favorite moment. It's like a whole. That's
No,
several moments. I just meant,
no.
is there one moment from the Frieza saga that you
uh,
think is the best, in your opinion?
I mean, you got to go with the
Goku.
first. Yeah, you got to go with him turning Super Saiyan.
I love that one, and I love the when he comes out of the lake and he's in Kaioken times 20. He gives that speech.
Yeah, yep.
That was a good one of my favorites, actually, kind of an underrated one. I love when he first shows up in the battlefield when Vegeta's about to die, and there's that one. He shows up in the battlefield after getting the Zenkai boost from being in the rejuvenation tank. He's
Right.
face to face with Frieza, and I thought this wasn't in the manga, but it's in the anime. Frieza lunges at him, and he just quickly
Yeah,
warps behind him and kicks him. Boom, one
yeah,
time, and pops Frieza into a mountain. And it was so awesome because it was before the fight had actually started. Frieza's like, well, screw this guy. Boom, psh, boom, and just nails him.
right.
And you're just at home like, yes, motherfucker. Like, you're like, fuck you. Like, you're just like, I don't mean to curse, but, you're just like fanboying out. Goku was so awesome in the Frieza saga. Just, that was my favorite moment for Goku as a character. Plus, when he
Yeah,
first arrived there and they're playing the Genki Dama theme, dun, dun, dun.
yep,
Dun dun dun, and then I love that scene where they open the ship up and it's like there's no music, it's just,
yeah,
and then he's sensing like Ginyu, Frieza, and Gohan dying, and then he powers up to Kaioken, just flies through. It's so, oh man, those are the best moments, for me, for the Frieza saga, anyways.
gotta love the nostalgia, man.
Well,
Gotta love.
I watched it. Okay, you could say it's nostalgia, but I watched it with my wife. I want to say a couple months ago, like 3 months ago. The
Yeah,
freeze,
yeah.
nah, about 5 months ago, and I loved it even more than I did when I was younger. It grew
Really?
on me, yeah, because I love
Well,
the badassness of it.
let's be clear. I don't think anything is wrong with nostalgia at all.
I
So when
agree.
I say nostalgia, a lot of people think, oh, no, I'm not just nostalgic. Blah 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 blah. Nostalgia is a powerful thing, and you can't take that away from anyone.
I agree, and even in the dub, that scene was pretty cool. Um,
Yeah, it was.
I loved it. And the other thing too is like one thing a lot of people don't pick up on. This is very obscure. Is when Goku arrives on Namek, and this is very hard to pinpoint. But I figured it out too, and I had some homework, and I was right. If you look at his gi, the kanji on the back of his gi is not the Roshi symbol, and it is not the Kaiosama. It's not the King Kai symbol. It's the Son Goku symbol. So at that
Yep.
point, very hard to pick up on this unless you really pay attention. At that point, Goku had considered himself like a master. Like at that point, and of
Yep.
course, if you actually look at the series, Goku would never train again for a long time. I mean, until he died and went to the other world. And even then, he really had no master. It wasn't until
Right.
Whis came along that it was his next real master. So at that point, Goku considered himself like, okay, I am a martial arts master with his own logo on his kanji.
Right.
That little detail is like, okay, this is a
Turning point.
turning point. And when you say that Toriyama was going to end the series at Frieza, again, there's evidence to support yes and no, but I do think that would have been a good ending if he chose to end it there.
Right. And everyone has their opinion, and everyone will either think it's good or bad, but not for anything. Let's just state the obvious. Thank God it didn't end there.
I agree. I wanted to ask you about the Buu saga too with Vegito.
Sure.
Um, I mean, I love the moment where, and this was not in the manga, also not quite like this, but that's the thing. The filler isn't always bad.
Right.
When Vegito actually goes SSJ at the end of the first Vegito episode, 'cause he's fighting him in his base form, and then you
Right.
see him power up in the veins, and then he does it, and then they have the music, dun, 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 and then he's like, "I am Super Vegito," and that's where the episode. And that's where the episode ends.
Yeah.
Like that was so epic, and then you're looking at Boo, and you're like, okay, now he's really screwed.
Yeah. And I mean, it's the moments like those where it's just powerful and epic at the same time that just really resonates. And I think that's why it's just, that character. I mean, how can you say this guy is not awesome?
So
And especially now that I don't know, in my opinion, we may actually get to see him again at some point in time.
we'll see. Now, why is the Boo Saga your favorite? I'm curious because that is a very untraditional, I guess, opinion.
Well, it's weird because if you ask me, it's very unique in that so much happens in such a short period of time. I mean, officially, the whole Buu Arc takes place over the course of 2 days, so it's unique in that. But I just think, being that it came to the end of the series at the time, it's just like you knew the end was coming, so you soaked it in because you could always go back and watch your tapes or your DVDs and watch Frieza and watch the whole Vegeta and Nappa. But I can't say that there was one reason for it, but if I were to pinpoint I guess a general reasoning, it would have to be because one, Ultimate Gohan made his appearance, and I think that's, like I said, my favorite moment.
What a
But
fanboy you are.
yo, seriously, I'm a big fanboy.
So you like Ultimate Gohan more than Teen Gohan in the Cell game? Because that's kind of
Yeah,
a big
hands
versus
down.
battle amongst the fans.
Hands down. I just think it. There's a difference between growth in a character and just a character or who someone becomes as a character. So you could really see Gohan's growth through Ultimate Gohan as adolescent or teen, whatever you want to call him. But I mean, he was like 11 or something. But
Yeah, he wasn't a teen. That's a big
yeah,
misconception.
yeah. But him as a teen, in terms of him going to college or high school, whatever. No, high school. Sorry, not college. There's a big difference in that when he was fighting Cell, there was really no growth. It was just a power boost. So you really see Gohan's growth through Ultimate Gohan. I think that's why I really think he was my favorite.
Yeah, I agree with you because a lot of people will pinpoint to that Cell scene and they'll say, well, when 16 got his head smashed and Gohan transformed, they'll say, oh, well, now he's taking the fight serious, when really he didn't. He goofed off too much and it cost him his father. And that was but the thing is that he kind of made that same mistake again. And this kind of irritates me about Gohan is he made the same mistake again with Super Buu because he could have killed Buu and he was goofing off.
Right.
But he's like more like Vegeta than his own dad in some ways.
Yeah, no, it is very true. Very true.
The thing I love about the Buu saga, and here's the thing about me is and I want to get your thoughts on this.
Sure.
I was not a fan of the Buu saga for many many years. It's still probably my least favorite arc, but the thing that I love about the Buu saga is, first of all, I think the first act is amazing. From the Gray Saiyaman to the tournament to the hatching of Buu to the sacrifice of Vegeta, that whole first act is such incredibly good writing. I felt that
Yeah.
the second and third weren't as good as the first act, but also I think, in my opinion, the the theme of the Buu saga was the struggle internally of good versus evil, and we
Right.
see it with two characters. We see it with Vegeta, and later on we see it with Majin Buu, in that
Right.
Vegeta struggled. He selfishly wanted to fight Goku. If you notice, he was a peaceful guy, and then when Goku announced he was coming back to life, all of a sudden Vegeta's all he's all gung ho. So then the tournament happens, and then he sees he's about to fight Goku. Kaioshin shows up. They got more important stuff to worry about. They leave the tournament. Vegeta gets gypped out of fighting Goku, and the only way he can fight Goku is by allowing Babidi to make him evil. So during
Right.
that fight, he's conflicted because he has grown an attachment to Earth, his wife, his son, but yet the old side of him is still in there. And then we see it again with Majin Buu, in that he becomes a good guy because of Mr. Satan, and then because of the evil that men do, which is the name of the English dub name of that episode when those two snipers killed the dog, and the old people, is called The Evil That Men Do. And that's a perfect name for that episode. I got to give them props for that,
Yeah,
because
it makes sense.
think about it, like, this whole series, we've seen villains from space, we've seen demons, we've seen magicians, we've seen artificial humans, and it's a human being, a regular person, that causes literally the destruction of Earth. Because had he not shot Mr. Satan and the dog, Buu would not have unleashed evil Buu. There would be no Super Buu to wipe out humanity. There would be no Kid Buu to wipe off the Earth. So that whole thing is because of one stupid human being. I just
Right.
always thought that was like incredible writing. Like, it's deep. Like, I
Yeah.
hate when people say Dragon Ball simple, because it's simple if you watch it for what it is, but if you peel away the layers, you get the real story of what Toriyama was trying to say. I mean,
Yeah.
hell, let me ask you about this one.
Sure.
And it's kind of controversial, okay, but the
Sure.
series ends with people yelling Satan, Satan. They're yelling Satan and donating their power to Satan, Mr.
Right.
Satan, and people are kind of like really, very offended at that. And I understand why. It makes sense. But I think kind of what Toriyama was trying to say is that, people will follow blindly to essentially Satan is kind of a false prophet, just like he was.
Yeah.
So even though in this Dragon Ball story he's a good guy and Boo's the real villain, nonetheless, it's like almost like he was his message was that people will follow even a liar and that's what the Bible even talks about Satan like that. So I just love how he kind of put that in there as like a little kind of
Yeah.
like that's the deepness of Dragon Ball, man.
Well,
Insider. Right?
No, I agree. What's interesting to me is that, because you bring up a good point, with the whole chanting at the end, you can almost think of that as, people will find something that makes them feel safe and hold on to it.
Like the dub? No, I'm kidding.
That's good. But no, but that message is just, people put their faith in one person, and they hold on to it, something they really care about, and they'll believe it no matter what, even if they don't know the true story. So no matter what happened, the people of Earth in the Dragon Ball world were going to believe that Mr. Satan was their hero. So it's something they held on to. And, the whole controversy of like people don't like it and people do, to me, a lot of that doesn't even matter to me. Only because I take it for what it is. And I know you say, it's people who think the series is simple. I think it's very simple in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But like you said, if you peel apart the layers, I mean, I think that's one of the reasons that the Buu arc was my favorite, because I think it expanded upon something where you could peel apart more layers than any of the other arcs. Because, like I said in the beginning, I think a lot of Dragon Ball is very cut and dry. There's not as much of a story to Dragon Ball as there is other bigger anime, like I don't know, Naruto, for example, just because it's the first thing I thought of. The story with Naruto, in my opinion, goes way deeper than the story of Dragon Ball. But it's easy, it's more fun to dissect what the story of Dragon Ball really was meant to portray through those acts. Like, the chanting of Mr. Satan. What did that mean? And how could you interpret that? Yeah, it's interesting, and I love dissecting things like that. It's fascinating to me, and I enjoy doing it. And talking about it makes it even that much more fun.
And that's what I'm saying. That I feel like you have the casual fan, and that's fine. Then you have the real fans, not the real fans. I don't want to be insulting, but the
Right.
more deeper fans who we could spend hours just dissecting little things like that. And Toriyama, I don't like it when people say Toriyama's like stupid. I mean, he might be a little lazy when they say he's dumb. That's a very intelligent man,
Yeah.
Akira Toriyama, bro, without question. And so is everybody at Toei. I mean, maybe not the people who don't want this to be simulcast, but the people who are writing the story, even though Super has its problems, I do feel that Toriyama is very intelligent. And stuff like that, like having the world chant for Satan to
Yeah.
save it. Again, people can get offended at that. Also, the fact that the concept in Dragon Ball in the Buu Saga that regular mortals can become more powerful than gods. I know that that's kind of a new age thing, so you have a lot of like conservatives who don't like that, but nonetheless, it's just kind of it's almost like Toriyama's kind of doing a satire of, in many ways, a satire of like the world. That's
Yeah.
kind of how I see Dragon Ball. It's kind of making fun of the world in a way, and not in a mean spirited way either. I don't think.
He's mocking it. It's what it seems like.
Yeah, he's mocking everybody. Is what
Yeah.
I've never felt the series in any way was making fun of any kind of religion. It's just a fantasy story that just gets wacky.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly. Now, actually, let me ask you something.
Sure.
And this question comes up a lot, and with good reason. What did you think of GT? I have to ask you because, and the ending specifically. Compare that to the
Oh,
ending of Z. How do you feel about that?
I don't know. I think it's purposely supposed to be vague. As far as GTA series as a whole, I think that it is a little bit below the quality of Dragon Ball. I don't
Yeah.
hate it. I think the first arc is kind of boring. It does pick up after a while. There's a lot of inconsistencies, but I've never been a GT hater. My issue is that people write off GT for the wrong reasons. If you
Right. No.
watch, yeah, they say that GT sucks because it's not Toriyama, it's not canon. I hate that word. If you watch GT, you will probably find something to like about it, I think. And the thing about GT to me is that it delivers on a lot of great ideas, like the idea of the Dragon Balls costing them at the end of the day. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And the idea that a Sufurian or a Sufurujin would come back after all these years for revenge. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Even the idea, even though it was fan service, of like hell opening up and having an invasion of like Frieza Cell. Brilliant, but I don't
Yeah.
think they capitalized on it. But to answer your question about the end of the GT, I think it was purposely supposed to be vague. I think we're supposed to speculate on it for years and years and years. Did Goku merge with Shenlong? Did he die? I don't think that he died because there's evidence. If you there's a video BLACKENFIST did about the decoding the end of GT, which is a very good video where he pretty much talked about that. The evidence supports that he did not die more than him dying because he was able to go and visit Piccolo, and he didn't have a halo either. So it
Right.
sounds like what happened, and this is kind of, I don't know, man. I'm gonna ask you what you think in a minute, but I guess the dragon just said we can't do this anymore, and the two biggest causes of the problems in this series has been the dragon and Goku.
Yeah.
So let's just go off to. It was almost like Lord of the Rings when they go to like the Promised Land. I almost felt it was like that, but we never get any real answers. What do you think?
Well, like you said, it is vague, but it could be picked apart. And in my opinion, the last episode of GT, I think, is better than the last episode of Dragon Ball Z.
I agree with you.
You could talk about it and discuss it and debate what you think happened. And a lot of times people will come up with things that you'd never even think of that are potential things that would happen. But I tend to be leaning on the side that Goku did in fact die. And
Really? Okay.
yeah, I am. And it's hard to say why, only because, there are other options out there that you can choose, but it's just, the way it ended, to me, it seems like it was fitting. I mean, and you could talk about, okay, well, when did he die? Did he die when he was coming back up with the Genki Dama, or did he die as soon as Shenlong got to the Earth?
That's
It's just
right.
like there's so many things to dissect, which is why I loved the ending because you could talk about it. A lot of people were pissed off at the last episode of Dragon Ball Z. Goku just left again. You know, it's typical. It's a typical ending that you would kind
Yeah.
of expect knowing the series, but as the casual everyday fan, you're like, what the hell just happened? You know?
Would you have liked the ending to have been more like that filler episode 287 with Goku and the birds? Like, because a lot of people have said that they prefer that ending because the whole family's like gathered together and there's they're all Goku's late again, and that's the ending. Would you have preferred that in your opinion?
No, only because I understand how Toriyama works, and it's a fitting ending for someone with his record.
Yeah, and shonen manga seems to be like
Yeah.
commonly, yeah. Now, what about the other ending that was given away in the official Dragon Ball Online timeline where Goku and Vegeta fight into space and have a supernova explode, and that was them? Like, what about that wacky ending that happens in 1,000 years? What about that one?
I have zero interest in that. I
Oh,
never did.
okay.
Yeah, I never did. But it's to me the ending. I think it was fitting.
My
I think it was fitting.
my perfect ending for Dragon Ball was always the Rocky 3 ending with, they fast forward to.
Oh man,
That'd
yeah,
be awesome. Old Goku and Vegeta, and they're together, and and Vegeta could say, "You want to ring the bell?" Ding,
yeah,
ding, and they're about to hit each other, and they're old men at this point. They're
yeah,
about to hit each other, and then that's when the series ends. That would have been the perfect ending for me. I love that Rocky 3 ending a lot,
yeah. Both get a punch to the jaw and then shuts down.
and that's it. Yeah,
Yeah.
right now. Before we wrap it up, man, what is the future of Dragon Ball Insider?
Wow. Well, we're gonna continue pushing content. We're gonna try our best to continue publishing and just doing things at a consistent rate, like our podcast. We're gonna really try expanding on that. We're gonna try to get some guests. Hopefully, we'll get Sabbath or maybe even Sean Schemmel one day. Um, I just want to say, it really is awesome running a website like this, only because you get to meet so many people and you don't really understand what people mean when they say, "Oh, I'd like to thank all the fans for all the support over the years." But thinking about it, it's just like, my website wouldn't be big if it wasn't for people following it. So you really have to thank everyone for following you because it wouldn't be a thing without people following you. You know what I mean? So it's just, we are in the business of people pleasing. We put out content so that people are happy and they enjoy it and they can grow with the franchise as our website grows and the series continues. So, with that said, the future of Dragon Ball Insider is just to continue trying to be awesome and pushing content, and hopefully, we're not going to stop. We're not going to stop at all. So, I think that's what I got for you.
We because I consider myself relating to that because I always thank my subs, and it's a cliche thing because everybody does it. And then
Yeah.
if you study like psychology and things like that, you'll pick up on the fact that yeah, you should thank people, but no, I feel the same way you do. Like people, I don't think people really understand that and I'm relating to you on this one. I'm very, very, very blessed and humbled that so many people have followed me for the past year. I just started, in March of last year, and
Yeah.
and you're kind of new too, 3 years longer than me, but still, you haven't been like around for like 10 years like some other people have. But
Right.
still, like the people don't understand that it is genuine appreciation, and you can't really show that. You can't show that unless maybe you talk to each one and like and you have a lot of followers, 100,000 on Instagram. You can't go to their house and hug every one of them, but you kind of feel like you should, but you can't. So it sucks. You can't really tell them
Yeah.
thanks for being there. So all you can do is just to remind them all the time how much you appreciate them.
Well, that's why I do giveaways. I try to stay involved in the best way I can. I mean, you can't, like you said, thank every single person, but I, I believe I'm a realist, and your YouTube channel and your network wouldn't be what it is without the support of your subscribers. And that's
Absolutely.
just a fact, because if you didn't have fans, you wouldn't have subscribers. So without them, what you're doing couldn't be made possible. And
And,
it's the truth.
and it wouldn't motivate either one of us to keep going. We would just
Exactly. Exactly.
yeah.
And it's very true, but yeah, it's as far as the continuation of Dragon Ball Insider, it's just I like to be involved, and I plan to fly out to California, and maybe go to Anime Expo or San Diego Comic-Con, try to get some things done out there. I love meeting people. It's actually a funny story. I was when I went to a Red Sox Yankees game back, I think it was last year or so. I had this case, cell phone case, and it's always funny running into someone who follows your website. And that was like the first time I realized that Dragon Ball Insider had become something that people really do follow. I was at a bar with one of my buddies for his bachelor party, and
I was gonna
he
say, man, that must have been fun if it was a bachelorette party.
no, I don't know why I said, probably because my girlfriend was just talking about it, but she or not she, my buddy and I were at a bar with a bunch of people, and someone came up to me and was like, "Oh, dude, do you follow this page on Instagram? I just saw this today." I'm like, yeah, I kind of run that page. And then it's just
That's
it's one of
great.
those things there. It's just like, wow, like cool, like thanks for following. Like you really don't understand what type of thing you've done when you run into something like that, or even just see the type of growth online or just whatever it may be. But it truly,
It's kind
uh,
of weird too sometimes, right?
it's very
Yeah.
weird, especially since I'm not the type of person to show my face. I mean, you got your YouTube guys, you have your Twitter guys, you have people who are big on one network, and you have people who are big on huge networks. But I've never been one to really show my face. So it's just I like to keep a low key, but at the same time it's just like, I don't even know where I'm going with this. It's just
It's
it,
crazy, is what it
it
is.
really is crazy. It really is.
Overwhelming. I mean,
It
hell,
is.
Kagi Films started a
Yeah.
YouTube channel, and now he works for Funimation. You just never know.
You have no idea. And that's the crazy thing. I never would have thought that one of the people in charge of public relations for Funimation would contact me saying, "Hey, would you like to collaborate and do a ticket giveaway?" That stuff like that, it's just, then you start to realize, this is awesome. It was awesome before, but now you're getting contacted by people who actually have involvement in the series. That's great. Being asked to go out to red carpet events, being given a spot on in a Funimation booth at Comic Con to say, "Hey, you can interview these people for 10 minutes in front of all these fans." It's just stuff like that makes you really appreciate what you've done and what you have going for you. And the thing is, there's no profit. There's no money to be made. It's all you do it because you want to and because you enjoy it.
Yeah, there's only fun to be had, which sometimes is more important than money,
Of course.
right?
And especially like this. And it's one of those things where, you do it because you want to do it, because you have a good time, because you have a passion for it, and not for anything. Without website, I truly believe without websites like mine, without channels like yours, without Kanzenshu, without any other bigger websites out there, the franchise as it is today, I don't think would be growing at such a fast rate, because it's still growing even 30 years after its initial start.
Yeah, it's crazy. There's new generations, man, and that's actually going to be my last question to you. But new generations, kids, discovering Kai, discovering Resurrection F in theaters. It's nuts. Everybody, check out Dragon Ball Insider. All of the social media links will be at the top of the page. The Twitter, the Instagram with 100,000 followers, more to come, I'm sure. I like how it just is 100K, so you don't even know if it's like 100,030, 100,010. Like, you don't even know like how many it really is until you go in it.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now. Let's see. We are
And
at,
that's as of right now. By the time this goes up, it'll be more than this.
oh yeah, nope, can't even tell you that. 1,000 or 100,018.
There you go, and climbing. So
And
check out
climbing.
the Instagram, check out the website. My last question to you is: you have a daughter.
I do.
Will you be getting her into Dragon Ball, and how will you do it?
Okay, so funny story. Kai was on TV not too long ago, and I forget, I forget which episode it was, but I have a video I took of her while I was watching it. It was a mellow episode. It was one of the only Gohan training with Piccolo episodes, and I'm like, hey, my daughter's name is Jeriana. I'm like, Jeriana, what's this? And she's so cute. She goes, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Z, and it's just, something like
Wow,
that. So she's adorable, first
you're
of all.
you're a good parent,
Thank you.
right?
But it's as far as getting her really exposed to it, it's tough to say, only because I mean, I'm gonna use a line that Chris Sabat said to me. Right now, when I spoke with him, his daughter knows that he plays a prince. He voices the character of a prince, and
Oh
and
man.
so you know what? I think I may go that route. You know, it's a story about a prince and one of his friends that he doesn't necessarily get along with.
Well, the
But
thing is,
maybe when she's older,
are you gonna start with just Dragon Ball? Because I think
I'd probably go
that's
with Dragon Ball.
it's a little
Yeah,
easier to digest, right? Like a little
of
kid
course.
having adventures.
Yeah, I mean, despite some of the nudity that I might have to hop over, but
You might have to dig up the because I have these somewhere. You might have to dig up the old edited Ocean Kid Mark DVDs and show her those.
oh
Those
my
are really cleaned
God,
up.
Kid Mark,
Kid
that's fun.
Mark,
Wow.
a million years ago or last Tuesday. Take your pick.
Yeah.
Seems like
Uh,
yesterday.
let's see. I don't think I have those, but the DB DVD set. I mean, they're out there. It's just a matter of finding them.
Yeah, the blue bricks are also
Yeah,
pre-edited. The sex is all cut out, so
yeah,
yeah, no big deal. All right, well, thank you, Anthony, and
yeah.
again, check out Dragon. Thank you for being on. Check out Dragon Ball Insider, and thanks to every one of you for checking out the Icons of the Dragon Ball Community Phase 2. And I'll catch you at the next one.